Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. So guys, as always, give the like button a smash. Show the support to the channel. Give us subscribe to the channel if you haven't. All that good stuff before we get into it, before we chop it up. Guys, I wanna talk a little bit about Josh Taylor and Manny Pacquiao. There's some people that think that Manny Pacquiao should fight Josh Taylor. He should forget the Ugas fight, go down and fight Josh Taylor for the undisputed at 140, as Manny Pacquiao has a greater chance of beating guys at 140 because they're not as good as the welterweight. There's welterweights. They're also saying that Manny Pacquiao is too small now at this age and this stage of his career. The size difference, the size advantages that he's giving away to his opponents at welterweight, they're too big. Josh Taylor's a big guy as well, though. But they don't think Josh Taylor's as good as some of the welterweights. So they think that, Manny Pacquiao going down to 140 gives him a better chance of winning. Firstly, Josh Taylor's got all the belts, so it's a chance for Manny to become undisputed, something that Manny's never done. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that Manny would beat Josh Taylor at this point? Do you think he can? I know there's going to be a lot of people that say yes. For me personally, I'm not convinced about Josh Taylor, to be honest with you. I think he's a good fighter, don't get me wrong. He's got very good skills. I still need to see him. I need to see more. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's a good fighter, he's undisputed champion, all of that stuff. He's definitely a very good fighter. But I want to see a little more. And what I mean by that is I want to see him against an elite fight. Like, I'm talking like, when I mean elite fight, I mean like your Terence Crawfords. I think that's the next step now for Josh Taylor to prove how great he is, because I do think he's benefited from a very weak 140-pound. That's no fault of his own. He can only fight what's there. But I do think that this 140-pound division is a lot weaker than the 140-pound division 10 years ago. You had guys like Zab Judah, Bradley Khan, Danny Garcia, Lamont Peterson, Marcus Maidana, Lucas Matisse, names like that, Victor Ortiz. You had guys like that, who were in the top of who were in their prime. Bradley, for example, he was a great fighter, and there was other guys as well that I've just named off 8 that I can remember. There was other guys around that time as well that I'm probably forgetting right now. Kotelnik, Devin Alexander. There's more. That's 10 I named. There's more. There's 10, 12. There was a lot of breed of good 140 pounders at that time. And Josh Taylor hasn't really got that at this, in his division right now. There's some decent guys there, but there's not abundance of talent. Whereas at welterweight, there is a lot of fighters at welterweight. So Josh Taylor is probably going to have to move up unless he stays at 140 and waits for some of the smaller guys like Tio to move up. And I actually think that he should do that, because I actually think he has better chance of making a name for himself by fighting guys like Lopez, who are smaller. Going up and fighting some of those dudes like Jaron Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, good luck with that. Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, Terence Crawford. That's a tough division. I think he needs to stay at 140 and probably look for fights with the smaller guys, and a fight with Manny Pacquiao. If Manny Pacquiao's, I don't think Manny Pacquiao's going to be interested in that fight, because I think Manny Pacquiao's a competitor. Manny Pacquiao's going to want to put that loss right. He ain't going to care about a Josh Taylor undisputed. I don't think he is anyway. I think he's going to be more interested in becoming or becoming welterweight champ again by beating Ugas. Because I just don't think that fight's going to sit well with him. I don't think Manny Pacquiao's going to say, you know what, I'm going to skip the Ugas fight and fight Josh Taylor for the undisputed. But if that fight was to happen, what would I give? Like, I know there was one of the subscribers, I think he's Josh Taylor's fan from Scotland, I think. and he said to me that there's no way Manny would beat Josh Taylor right now. I think people are struggling to understand that Ugas was a very, very big dude. And he fights differently to Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor's a completely different fighter. Josh Taylor likes to have more of a tear-up. He likes to get involved. Manny Pacquiao's got a great chin. So Josh Taylor's not, for me, not gonna stop Pacquiao anyway. So that's a good fight, man. That's a good fight. It would be a very, very good fight, and it'd be Taylor's toughest fight to date, without question. Prograis is not as good as even this version. Manny Pacquiao is better than Prograis. I think people are getting carried away. Firstly, I think people don't understand how good Ugas is. Ugas is a really good fighter. Really good fighter. Just because a guy doesn't have a name, that doesn't mean he can't fight. Let's not forget, if we were to go a couple of months back, Josh Taylor, prior to the Undisputed fight, Josh Taylor had no name either. But he's an undisputed champion now. So just because you don't have a big name, don't mean you can't fight. And Ugas is definitely one of those guys that hasn't got a big name, but he can fight. Josh Taylor's another one that hasn't got a big name, but he can fight. But I think Josh Taylor, I want to see Josh Taylor in with a Teofimo Lopez, a Terence Crawford, someone of those ilk now. I think Jack Catterall's fair enough. After that, big fights need to be made for him. Big fights. Fights where they're legacy fights. They're going to tell us how good he really is. Because like I said, I don't really think he's fought, although he's fought all the best guys in his division, but how many of them can you call elite fighters? Do you think Ramirez is an elite fighter? Do you think Prograis is an elite fighter? Do you think Postal's an elite fighter? When you think about it, yeah, they're elite 140 pounders right now, yeah. But are they elite fighters? It's questionable. I want to see Josh Taylor in there with the top guys after Catterall. I think this Catterall fight's more of a fight where I think he's fighting Jack Catterall because of the fact that, and he may not want to, but the fact that, Jack Catterall stepped aside for the Undisputed because Jack Catterall was the mandatory for Ramirez. So what they thought is they probably had an agreement in place that if Jack Catterall steps aside, he gets the first crack at the Undisputed. So to be honest, Jack Catterall's got an opportunity of a lifetime. He's going to fight for the Undisputed Championship of the world. In his first world title fight, he's going to fight for the Undisputed Championship of the world. Imagine if he wins, that's some Cinderella story, So to be fair, Jack Catterall shouldn't be underestimated because this is an unbelievable opportunity for Jack Catterall. And I don't think he's going to be good enough to, beat Taylor or even come close to beating Taylor. But at the end of the day, this is boxing. You never know. One punch changes everything. But yeah, I think that's quite a comfortable win for Josh Taylor. And then after that, I think we need to see him start getting those big, big fights. Those big super fights with your Lopez's, with your Crawfords, with your Gervonta Davis. That's a great fight. Gervonta Davis v. Josh Taylor would be a great fight. That's a great fight for me. I want to see that one. I really do. I think Teofimo's stylistically a very good fight as well. I think Terence Crawford, I think that's not a 50-50 for me. Whereas I think like Gervonta, Teofimo, they're more closer fights. You might have Josh as a slight favourite, but they're closer fights. Whereas I think Terence Crawford's a substantial favourite for me against Josh Taylor. So I would like to see him fight some of the smaller guys, because like I said, those are big fights and big money fights. And Josh Taylor would actually probably be a slight... with Lopez, I don't know, it's a very close fight, but probably edge towards Taylor because he's naturally a bigger man. But against Crawford, I don't give him much of a shot in that one, to be honest. Crawford's just on another level right now for me. I know people talk about his resume, but when you look at Crawford's boxing IQ, his confidence, his ring generalship, his hand speed, his foot speed, his boxing mind, it's just his punch selection, his punch variety, his orthodox and unorthodox style, his fights orthodox and a southpaw. switch it to unbelievable. Like, he does everything unbelievable. So, to be honest with you, I think that's a very tough fight for anybody, but not just him. I think Crawford probably now, with Spence going through what he's going through, he's probably the best welterweight in the world, and he probably beats Spence as well. So yeah, what do you guys think though? Do you think Manny Pacquiao would beat Josh Taylor? What do you guys think? Do you think Manny Pacquiao beats Josh Taylor, or do you think Josh Taylor? Obviously, we all know that Prime Manny would have beaten Taylor, but do we think that this version of Pacquiao can't beat Taylor now? He can't become undisputed at 140. What do you guys think? Leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think, guys. And guys, remember to please like, share, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.